Hello guys, welcome to my channel Science and Engineering Knowledge Academy. I am Afran Haider Khan. Today the topic which we are going to discuss is startup. What is startup? What are the different types of the startups? So today we are going to discuss that in this lecture. Now, startup has a variety of definition, some of which are: a startup is a temporary organization in search of a scalable, repeatable, and profitable business model. So, what does we mean by a startup? So, startup is a temporary organization or a temporary setup where we want to search for a scalable, repeatable, and profitable business model so that that can be implemented, obviously with the rules of the business model implementation, getting the feedback from the customer, and then we would be able to develop a successful business through the feedback of the customers. Then the learn, build, and measure loop, we have to develop a startup, develop a business from the startup. So startup is basically a temporary setup. A startup is a human institution designed to create a new product or service under conditions of extreme uncertainty. As we have discussed in the previous lectures, that entrepreneurship involves uncertainty. There are a lot of risks involved. So the first step where an entrepreneur develop a temporary setup where it forms a startup, where it forms a group of people, collect a group of people and try to create new product and services under the extreme condition of uncertainty. Such type of a collection of people who strive to provide new services keeping the high risk intact is called startup. Now there are main 6 types of startups: lifestyle startups, small business startups, scalable startups, buyable startups, corporate startups, and social startups. We are going to discuss all these startups one by one in this lecture. So 6 main types of startups. Lifestyle startup. So lifestyle startups are created by entrepreneurs who turn their life's passion into a business. For example, if someone is a musician and he or she starts teaching that particular instrument or different instruments, music, notes to the students and earn money and develop a business model, so that startup would be called as a lifestyle startup. The passion, whatever the entrepreneur want in his life, what he feels as a passion, as a satisfaction, converted into a startup. So he basically converts his lifestyle into a startup. Such type of startup is called lifestyle startup. Or an actor teaching acting lessons. So there could be an actor who would start an academy teaching different young actors or those who wants to pursue the career in their acting. Similarly, YouTubers, influencers, and there are a lot of such domains where such type of startups like lifestyle startup exist, where the lifestyle of a particular entrepreneur is being adopted as a business. Second, the small businesses. A small business startup refers to a newly launched business that is designed to operate on a small scale, such as local stores, maybe, such as the barber shops, such as the travel agency, salon, car wash, um, and boutique, so on and so forth. So these are the small businesses. In small businesses, a startup model, there is very less chance or lower chance of growth. There is obviously less risk involved. The more you have less higher risk, the more actually you will be able to have a expanded model in case of success. Obviously risk is involved in there. In a small business startup, You require limited employees, lower investments, and the focus is mainly on the local community, on local services, on the niche market. So, unlike the big startups, the high growth startups, they are small businesses, and they prioritize basically to have a stable income. They do not want to take high risks, and such small businesses basically comprise 99% of all the US companies. Small businesses make up 99% of all US companies and employ 50% of all non-governmental workers. So you can see how big this small business startup market is. And that's why, because everyone is not capable of taking high risk. Everyone do not have higher investments, right? And this type of a startup is called small business startup. Now, scalable and buyable startups. Scalable startups have a repeatable, scalable business model, a high growth, high profit, new solution to the problem the marketplace is facing. So usually, what scalable startups do, that they scale their startup, raise capital from outside investors, and they turn that into a profitable startup that is not mature to be a business. That is a startup, but it's a profitable startup. And then those startups which are scalable involves mostly the outside investors, right? And they have a high growth. They're not small startup. They have a high growth rate, they have high profit rate, and obviously they would have high solution. But at that particular instant, they have the potential to be scaled up to basically grab the larger market, worldwide market. So they are scalable businesses. They have the new solutions to the new problems in the markets, and these type of startups are called scalable startups. Buyable startups. Now, most of the startups, upon excelling, upon maturing to some extent, showing their growth rate, then these startups basically present themselves into the market and try to sell themselves. Such type of startups are called buyable startups. For example, in Pakistan, there was a startup uh, of Kareem, and then Kareem developed into a mature business in Pakistan, obviously. But for most of the world, that was a startup because it was only existing in Pakistan or in somewhere UAE. Then Uber bought it from Kareem and owners and on $1 million deal, and that's how this buyable startup work, where you build a startup, where you work on an idea, where you develop a business, and at the end of the day, the whole goal is to sell that startup at a higher price and get that money and then get out of that deal. The next one is corporate and social startups. In this, what corporate startups are. So usually corporate startups are unique in that way that they are not started from scratch in terms of funding and infrastructure. There is a big company, there is a parent company, there is a business, established business, and that established businesses want to start a new idea, to work on a new idea, so they do not start from scratch. What corporate business or what corporate startups do, that they get their funding, infrastructure, and most of the resources from inside of the parent company instead of outsourcing that, right? Such type of startups are called corporate startups, and these startups usually do well because they have a high they have higher funding, they have good and pre-existing infrastructure, and some good people. They have good PR, they have good people, they know their business. So most of the time corporate startups do well. Such type of startups involve the main parent company to support that new startup. Such type of a startup is called corporate startup. In a social startup, the founders of the social startup channels their ambition, passion, and drive towards making a positive impact on the world, not towards making a profit. So the main purpose of the social startup is to pursue the owner's ambition or the founder's ambition and passion for a positive change in the society, for a positive impact on the society. And the main goal is not the profit. But obviously, running those matters require capital, require money to run that startup. These startups are usually funded by the grants, then donors and crowdfunding platforms. So some of the examples of the social startups are like Solar Sisters. They provide these solarization to the local people, right? And then Kiva, which gives loans to those who, which changes the lives of the people, and all these kind of startups, which has a social impact on the society, which wants to bring positive change into the society, which wants to address the social and local issues of the societies. Such type of startups are called social startups, and their main aim is to serve the society and a positive impact on the society. And their source of income is donations, grants, funding, seminars, and fundraisers. So these are the 6 types of startups: the lifestyle startup, the small business startup, the scalable startup, the viable startup, the corporate startup, and the final is the social startup. There are other types of startups, but these are the main types of startups. So startup is a temporary setup for searching a scalable, profitable, and repeatable business model. Thank you so much.